Scoring on the game-winning goal was number 46, Jared Spurgeon. Assisted on the play by number 22, Kevin Fiala. Also assisting on the game-winning goal, number 89, Freddie Goudreau. Time of the goal, 3:55 into overtime.
But as God intended, Wild win this game! 5-4 over the San Jose Sharks. And we finally clinched the playoffs. It was going to happen anyway. We were pretty much already there. But just to make it official, we had to get at least a point in this game, and we get 2. And that is huge because I thought St. Louis didn't play today. Turns out they do, and they frankly pants Nashville in their own building 8-3. They had a 7-goal second period. They have scored 4 or more goals in 12 straight games. That team is carried by some other external force, probably Satan or something like that. But like I said, as God intended, the Wild win this one 5-4 in overtime over the San Jose Sharks. And now we are officially in the playoffs. Hope you liked that sermon at the beginning because I'm not going to do every other goal like that. But let's go through the notes that we have here. So, first goal for the Wild, coming in with 13:56 left in the first period. Dmitry Kulikov gets his 6th of the season, assisted by Fiala and Boldy. Remember those two. Basically, Boldy has a nice forecheck. He ends up getting the puck to Fiala, who drop passes it. It's a one-timer through traffic, and of course, Kulikov finds the back of the net. He almost had another one, too, but it hit the post in the third period. So the Wild are up 1-0 at that point, and then pretty much a little bit more than a minute later, Jared Spurgeon gets his 8th of the season with 12:31 to go in the first period. This one was assisted by Foligno. Basically, Foligno got the puck off of the boards, throws it to Spurgeon, who's at the point, and he fires an absolute rocket that manages to somehow sneak through traffic and go bar down and in. So just like that, it's 2-0 Minnesota about almost midway through the first period. But this is still an actual NHL team they're facing, so of course they can't have any shutouts. They can, but they just don't want to because they're playing a back-to-back, so I get that. But Rudolph Balcers gets his 10th of the season at 10:22 for the Sharks, assisted by Bordelot, which Avs fans might remember that name, and Gregor. Yeah, Gregor. I'm just as confused as you. But basically, the puck wasn't cleared out well enough by Minnesota, and Balcers managed to get this one to go 5-hole on Marc-Andre Fleury. And I'm gonna be honest, Fleury, not really a good goal to give up. It doesn't look good for you. I mean, 5 holes are bad. He was sliding too, so it kind of threw him off a little bit. But come on, you gotta do a little bit better than that. But luckily, that was all that happened in the first period for him, so we were good. Wild were out shooting San Jose 11-6, so it seemed like Minnesota was going to kind of roll to this game. And then the second period happens, and then it just kind of hits a wall. Like the game itself pretty much hit a wall. Matt Nieto, former Av, gets his 6th of the season with 18:41 to go in the second, assisted by former Wild players Nick Bonino and Brent Burns. Both of those players used to be on the Wild at one point. One we probably should have kept. Well, I would say we should have kept them both, but at this point it's fine. They're both out of the playoffs. Basically, Zuccarello ends up trying to make a drop pass in the offensive zone. It doesn't connect with who he's trying to drop it to. They steal it, go back the other way. Bonino throws it over to Nieto, and then they score. And to make matters worse, at 16:48, Nick Bjugstad takes a holding penalty, to which I put on the notes, the Wild look lazy right now. And they pretty much did. Although at 16:20, Fiala had a couple close shorthanded chances and was getting some really close chances. And that pressure ends up forcing a San Jose penalty while the Wild are trying to kill off this penalty they have. Scott Reedy takes a holding penalty, so it's 4-on-4. 14:44, shot hits the post, and Fleury, being the nice guy he is, always thanks his posts. Just giving it a little little pat right there just to make sure, hey, thanks for saving that one for me. And then, as it was sitting 2-2 for a good chunk of time, Matt Boldy gets his 14th of the season, 13:23 left in the second, assisted by Fiala and Gaudreau, to which this line has been ridiculous for Minnesota. I'm not saying Kaprizov and Zuccarello have been bad, but this line has been near unstoppable. Freddie Gaudreau has been nuts. Fiala has been nuts. Boldy, ever since he came back, has been nuts. This line is rolling. And frankly, it's made up for the lack of the Grief line because Greenway is still out. We're still also missing John Merrill and Matt Dumba. We're still missing those guys. Tyson Jost was out for this game just as a healthy scratch, just to kind of, get him some rest. Much needed rest, by the way. So they moved Bukestad up to the Grief line at this point, or I'm not going to say that. There's no way. But Bukestad's with Eriksson, Ek, and Foligno. So the fourth line slot that Eriksson Ek had goes to Connor Dewar, who did play really well in this game. He was hustling. He was getting after the puck. He had a really good play in the third period that nearly amounted to a goal. So he's hustling. He looks good. And so for this Boldy goal right here, basically Boldy with great puck control, because that's what he seems to do. That's what he excels at for Minnesota. He has phenomenal puck control in the offensive zone. He's able to get it out to the point. Shot comes in through the point. It's scrambling around. Nobody can find it except for Matt Boldy, and he buries it. 3-2 Minnesota, 13:23 left in the second. And then, with 13 minutes left on the dot, Scott Reedy takes a tripping penalty. Former Gopher, trying to help out his former state. So, gotta help with that. But then, things just look odd. It just, for some reason, that penalty did nothing for Minnesota. And then things really start to fall off of the edge. Then Gregor, remember him? First assist on the Sharks goal. He gets a goal here. His 5th of the season with 8:49 left to go in the second, assisted by Burns and Balsers, the guy who scored the first one for San Jose. Basically, it's a shot from Burns. Nobody's in front of the net to push Gregor out. And so he's left alone in front of Fleury. Fleury stops the first one but can't get the second one. Just like that, it is now tied again. It was 2-2. Now it is 3-3. And then the wheels really start to fall off for Minnesota. 7:23, Zuccarello takes a holding penalty. 6:47, it looks like San Jose got the 4th goal, but instead they literally used their sticks and pushed Marc-Andre Fleury into the net. So they waved it off emphatically. They're like, no goal! You pushed him into the net. You cannot pitchfork the other goaltender into the net. So they wave it off. Nothing ends up happening. And then at 3:38, Vlasic takes a tripping penalty. So, okay, Wild are back on the power play, right? Wrong, because Eriksson Ek has a holding the stick penalty at 2:33. So now it's 4-on-4 for 56 seconds. And the period ends up fizzling out like that. And it just kind of left a bad taste in our mouth. It looked dreary. It looked like a Sunday. It looked like Easter when I don't want to be there for Sunday Mass, because I used to go to that. If you still do, that's great. I don't, because I can't wake up that early and I can't force myself to go there anymore. But I wrote at the end of the second, Christ died for this? This game feels slow and lazy. Please don't hate me, religious people. Please pick it up in the third. We can clinch today. It got so bad. Remember how I said shots in the first period were 11-6 in favor of the Wild? They now became 21-17 in favor of San Jose. They not really dominated that period because it just looked like nobody could really break anything. Nobody really commanded the game anymore. It just looked slow, lazy. It looked like we were playing a back-to-back. Luckily, we were. So, I mean, that checks out. But still, you have a chance to clinch today, and the guys you're trying to catch blew out Nashville 8-3. You might want to win this one. And literally, I wrote that at the start of the third period. I said the Blues are killing Nashville because 7 goals in the third period for the Blues. I don't know what kind of dark arts they're working on over there, but I might dabble in it just to help the Wild a little bit. Then at 19:05, Timo Meier gets a roughing penalty, but again, the power play just does nothing. And in fact, it's even worse. I wrote, please score afterwards. I did not mean San Jose to score. Nick Bonino gets his 12th of the season at 18:23. It's a short-handed goal. It is a short-handed goal, and at this point, I'm just looking into my hands, just thinking, why? Why? And I literally, I was thinking, oh my God, we need those players back badly. And it just wasn't even that good of a goal to give up, frankly. It was just a bad goal. Basically, Tomáš Hertl gets this goal. The assists go to Hertl and Miloš, M-E-L-O-C-H-E, however you pronounce that. Hertl gets the puck. He gives it to Bonino. Bonino just takes a shot going to the far side of the net, and it goes in. Like, Fleury did not have a good game today. I was fully expecting him at one point to possibly break his stick because he's been known to do that, which sucks because he's a nice guy. He's a good guy. You should help him out. But even he is not Jesus. Even he is not immortal. I'm not saying Jesus was immortal. I'm getting, don't follow me for religion, but even Fleury has off days. And this one was definitely one of them. This is an off day basically for the Wild in general. But luckily, it seems as though as soon as that goal was scored and Minnesota realized, wait, we're down. We're down to a team that is out of the playoffs by far. They are sitting 7th in the Pacific. 7th in the Pacific, not the Central, not the toughest division in all of hockey, the Pacific. And it's at that point, luckily, where Minnesota's like, okay, let's just restart and let's just get after it. And it's at this point where Minnesota started becoming nuts. They started literally living up to their name and being wild. The crowd started getting into it, and eventually, Kevin Fiala, please re-sign him, Bill Guerin. He gets his 29th of the season with 11:06 to go in the third, assisted by Jordy Ben. And, of course, Freddie Gaudreau, who keeps popping up. He keeps doing this. That line is rolling for Minnesota. Basically, point shot from Jordy Ben goes right off of Fiala's stick in front and into the net. It's a nice tip play. And, again, I have it circled. I'm circling it even more now. Literally just saying, re-sign Kevin Fiala. If we do not re-sign him, I'm going to lose it. Because what hasn't he proved? He's been incredible. Ever since Boldy has come along and Fiala has gotten out of that slump. Remember he was in that slump in the beginning of the season where it was him and Kaprizov. It was like, are these guys going to score? Like, we're still winning these games, but these guys should be good. Now, they are the best guys we have. It's Fiala and Kaprizov. They are incredible. They are playmakers. They are stars, essentially. They're stars. And so I don't see why we can't re-sign him other than cap issues. But frankly, I would be willing to trade somebody to keep him. Because he is worth it. He is worth it. We're not getting rid of Boldy, and Boldy's the guy that's invigorated him. I don't know who we'd get rid of. Maybe somebody on the fourth line, but I don't want to, obviously, because the cap penalties hurt. But we have to re-sign him. We would, like, literally, what else does he have to prove? He's done everything. Does he have to go off in the playoffs? Because I feel like he's still going to make a difference in the playoffs. We'll see when that time comes because now we're in them. But please re-sign him. Just make it easier for everybody because re-signing the guys we have, he's like the one guy that's still not re-signed that we should have re-signed. But anyway, he still ties the game up at 4. Thank God. And at 7:24, I wrote, ever since San Jose took the lead, Minnesota suddenly woke up. And they really did woke up. So much so that at 5:37, Timo Meier just snaps on Ryan Hartman. Literally, Meier was pissed off that the Sharks were stuck in their own zone. Nobody was doing anything to him. Hartman might have been talking, but he wasn't like in his face and stuff like that. It was literally like Meier was going out of his way just to start pushing and roughing more of our guys because he was just so pissed off. And eventually got to the point where Hartman just skates by him. I don't think he even said anything on the replay. Just skates close to him. And then all of a sudden, Timo Meier just decks him. It's way away from the play because the puck is in the Sharks zone and those two are changing. They are by the benches and the puck is in San Jose's zone and he just levels him. So it's an easy interference penalty and Meyer is just livid. Absolutely livid. And originally I thought it was a fight between those two guys, but it was just Hartman just taking a hit from a guy who is pissed off. And so the Wild end up getting an interference penalty on Meyer and a power play out of it. But again, nothing materializes on the power play. Part of it is probably because they threw Kaprizov and Fiala on that line, which you think would be good for the power play. I mean, 2 stars, they know what they're doing, right? It should work. It doesn't seem to work because the best chances we got was during this power play when Evason finally switched back to away from the Kaprizov and Fiala on the same line, and he split them into different units. So Kaprizov's line was on the first one with Hartman and Zuccarello, and then the second line was the Boldy, Goudreau, Fiala line. I don't think they put the Grief line in there because they're just making sure that, I think they put Foligno in there, so it wasn't exactly those lines, but they still wanted to keep those two separate, and this is where they got the best chances. But again, nothing shows up. That is the one thing the Wild desperately need to fix going into the playoffs. So I hope they do. But then at 2:42, this is when the incredible play by Connor Dewar happens. He manages to dipsy-doodle his way right by a few Sharks defenders, get a great chance on net, and then the puck is being whacked at continuously. Somebody's trying to get it, still bouncing around, coming loose. Duhaime's in there, Dewar's in there. I want to say Bukestad got thrown in there at some point. Like, everybody was crashing towards the net, but somehow it bounces back out. Eventually, Sharks call a timeout with 26 seconds left. Nothing ends up causing for the third period. Nothing ends up happening. So by the end of the third, the Wild officially clinched the playoffs because all they needed was 1 point. So they have that. They have 100 points in the season, and they've now been in the playoffs for 9 times out of the last 10. 9 out of the last 10 years, the Wild have been in the playoffs, which is incredible, but frankly, playoffs aren't the goal here. Let's go further than just being there. So I told them, let's win this. And thank goodness they heard me because Jared Spurgeon gets his 9th of the season at 3:55 left in overtime, assisted by Fiala and Goudreau. Just like the sermon I preached at the beginning and just like God intended, the Wild win this one in overtime because that always seems to be what happens. We always seem to suck enough in the second period, bring our fans back into it in the third, and then win in dramatic fashion. It's a fun way to win. I'd like to win in more convincing fashion, but it's still fun games to watch, like primetime TV. Basically, Fiala wraps this puck around the zone. He does the Kaprizov thing where it's like, oh, he's skating around the zone. He's still got control of the puck. He's still going. He's still going. Fiala's doing that same thing, and then eventually he fires it on net, and people thought it was Fiala's goal because it just was in so quickly. But we looked at the replay, and Spurgeon just kind of had his stick there, didn't even mean to tip it, bounces off his stick, bounces down into the net. Wild win in dramatic fashion, and we clinch the playoffs, and we're still only 1 point behind St. Louis. So, with that being said, that puts us at a record of 47, 21, and 7, equivalent to 101 points. We're still third in the Central because St. Louis has 102 after their domination of Nashville. Shots in this game were 30-28 in favor of San Jose, but again, shots haven't meant much recently for Minnesota. Like, it's weird because you think they would, but not in this game. Nope, they just didn't really mean much. Both goalies didn't really look good, so it was just kind of whoever got the better of the chances. And once the Wild finally woke up, they played like they should, and they get the win. So, the next game for Minnesota, 7 Eastern on Tuesday in Montreal. And this is not the worst team in the league, Montreal, anymore. This is the Martin St. Louis Montreal Canadiens. So it is a tougher matchup than we're thinking it will be. This is not an easy win like we probably thought this Sharks game would be. But I still feel like we're going to win that. Again, I have no idea when Greenway, Merrill, or Dumble will be back. They might just be held out until the playoffs just to be safe. I could see that happening. I could also see some other things happening. Maybe they bring him back in just to make sure they're ready to go, ready to get ramped up. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. But as always, that is it for this video. Thank you for watching. Please like, please subscribe if you want to watch more of these videos. I've got numerous more that I've videotaped before, and some of them are good, some of them are bad. I think they're all good, but that's up to you to decide. Leave a comment if you want to comment on one of my takes and say, it's terrible! Why are you using religion in hockey? Or something like that. I don't know. But as always, I will talk to you all later. And I'm going to keep watching the Wild because, like I said, through most of these videos, this team is way too much fun not to watch. But like I said, that is it. Thank you for watching, and I will talk to you all later. Peace.